It's funny, I was thinking about this a few days ago, and I was quite surprised with the fact that so far this season, the Bulls haven't really had any fourth quarter collapses or massively blown leads, whereas last season and the season before that, it seemed like a common occurrence where the Bulls, for the life of them, could not hold on to a late game large lead. They had some games where they had some epic comebacks, but far too often we would see the 15 or 20 plus point leads in the second half get wiped away into oblivion. And while yes, the Bulls have had some bad third quarters this season, there really hasn't been a game, at least that I can recall off the top of my head anyway, where they really had a meltdown and blowing a massive lead going into the fourth quarter. There were a couple games where they had a big lead and it was brought down to the wire, but they ultimately ended up winning the game. And I say it was funny because of the irony in the Bulls having their biggest meltdown of the season against the Hawks tonight. And honestly, a strong case for one of the biggest meltdowns across the NBA for how quickly they blew that lead. That was as much as 21 points and also a 17-point lead going into the fourth quarter. The Bulls allowed the Hawks to go on a 23-2 run in the fourth. They allowed 50 points in the frame alone, the second highest amount of points allowed by any team this season in a given quarter, the most being 51. They didn't fight for loose balls. They allowed way too many second chance points. Their defense, which wasn't that bad this game, but completely fell off the rails in the final 12 minutes. They panicked, they lost their composure, and enabled the Hawks to come back and win this game when it looked like the Bulls were easily gonna walk away with the win. Now, to be fair, when I saw the Bulls injury report going into this game, where we learned that Giddey, Lonzo, Buzelis, and Ayo were all going to be out of the lineup, I thought, well, that's a wrap. Not a chance the Bulls are going to win this game, especially when we know Ayo is Trae Young's father and has horrible games against him. I'm sure Trae breathed a sigh of relief when he learned that Ayo wasn't going to be playing in this one. But when you're without your key rotational players, and like I said in the game against the Bucks, without your two floor generals in Giddey and Lonzo, and now also without Ayo, who has kind of been the Bulls' de facto facilitator when Giddey and Lonzo haven't been in, I thought, yeah, their offense is going to be completely lost in this game, not a shot they win it. And initially, it kind of looked that way when Billy opted to start Dalen Terry, who clearly was not ready to be placed in that role and looked lost out there, getting in foul trouble and turning the ball over. But then Jevon Carter comes into the game, which you guys know, normally Jevon Carter is sort of the human white flag for the Bulls, where if he's in the game, the Bulls have already lost. But Carter comes into this game with the Bulls being shorthanded in the backcourt and just goes berserk from behind the arc in the first quarter. I tweeted after Jevon made his first three, and we knew that we were going to be seeing a fair amount of playing time from him. I joked that we're going to see Carter put up 10 plus threes in this game. And then he went off to put up 7 of them in the first quarter alone, making 6 of those 7. He ended up only hitting one more three after that first quarter, but did take more than 10 threes, going 7 for 11 from deep and put up a career high in a Bulls uniform with 26 points. Give him credit. Man has only played in 13 games this season, most of those garbage time minutes, and he came ready to play, embraced the next man up mentality, and ignited a quick lead for the Bulls, a spark of offense that they definitely needed in the first half when Vucevic, Lavine, and Coby were all relatively quiet. Now, would I have left Carter in the game for that long? Would I have chosen to go with him and closing this one out in the fourth quarter? No. And I do think the Hawks started going at Jevon Carter towards the end of the game to really get easy buckets inside. And it also really limited the Bulls on the glass when you have someone as small as Carter and Coby White in the backcourt. Now, maybe this was a tanking effort from Billy Donovan, because I feel like most coaches would have probably made some quick adjustments seeing a team go on a 23-2 run against you in the fourth quarter. But I feel like the Bulls should have gone a little bigger in that closing lineup. Yes, even going with Dalen Terry, despite the fact that he looked awful to start the game. That's the thing. If Lonzo Ball was playing in this game, the Bulls wouldn't collapse like that. Because he's too smart, he's calm and collected. He wouldn't let that happen, and the guys wouldn't have panicked knowing Lonzo was running point to finish off the game. And even if you didn't have Lonzo, having Ayo in this game likely doesn't put the Bulls in a position that they found themselves in falling apart at the end. So I say all of this because it's the only thing that really is giving me solace right now in this loss is that the Bulls, one, shouldn't have won this game anyway with all the injuries they had to their key players, and had those guys played, it would have been a very different outcome in my opinion. It It was an epic meltdown, yes, a big disaster, but you also have to consider the circumstances for what the Bulls were working with tonight. The other unfortunate thing with the Bulls losing this game is that it really spoiled Zach LaVine's insane heater that he went on in the second half. I mean, the dude just could not miss and was doing a little bit of everything, scoring on all 3 levels, hitting incredibly difficult shots. 37 points on 14 for 25 shooting. He actually missed more of his shots inside too. Man went 7 for 9 from 3. But he was also the Bulls' lead guard in handling the ball. 7 assists, 5 rebounds, a steal in the block. I mean, the biggest issue with Zach tonight was the turnovers. 7 turnovers, and I get it. You're talking about some high usage for him in this game. Naturally, that's going to lead to more turnovers, but some bad passes that got the Hawks going in the fourth quarter, and unlike a guy like Lonzo or even DeMar of last season, Zach could not control and settle his guys down to finish out this game. A lot of panic possessions that enabled the Hawks to get easy buckets in transition, and so yeah, it kind of spoiled what was otherwise an insane night for him offensively. I will say it was good to see Coby White finally have a better game, or at least a better shooting game. He finished with 23 points, 8 for 13, 5 for 8 from 3, 9 assists as well. And then Vucevic, 19 points, 8 rebounds, and efficient 9 for 13 from the floor. Even Patrick Williams had a decent game, didn't shoot it well from 3, but was aggressive in getting inside and played some great defense as well. It's crazy because you look at the overall team numbers for the Bulls in this game, and you see they shot 54% from the field. An insane 51% from 3, and that's on 43 threes taken, 22 for 43. They had 36 assists in total, which I believe tied a season high for them. They didn't turn the ball over that much, just 14 turnovers. So how did they lose this game? Well, the main thing was the extreme free throw disparity between these two teams, which I feel like has to be called out. Bulls had 6 free throws in this game, compared to the Hawks' 34. And look, I know the Bulls weren't going inside very much, and the Bulls did have some bad fouls, but something is very wrong there when you see that kind of free throw disparity. That should never happen where a team gets up 34 free throws and the other one sees 6. 13 fouls called on the Hawks to the Bulls' 26. Nah, that's bad. And I know the Bulls aren't a good defensive team and they tend to foul more than their opponent because of their poor defense, but it's not like the Hawks are some insanely good defensive team and rarely foul. And there were a lot of questionable calls made by the officials tonight. That clear path foul they called on Lavine really changed the outcome of the game, especially when I believe it was Daniels who made the outlet pass clearly traveled before throwing it ahead. Instead of that turning into a turnover, the Hawks get 2 free throws and the ball. They score a 3 after the free throws, and it's a 5-point swing with about 4 minutes left to go. Anyway, it doesn't really matter at this point. The Bulls shouldn't have found themselves in a position where the game was that close down the stretch. When they led by as many as 21 points and 17 in the fourth quarter, I guess it's another one of those good tanking losses. Honestly, I mean, you can look at every game this season as a win-win, because when the Bulls win, it's unexpected for a team that is supposed to be bad. And then when they lose, well, it's more likely that they're able to keep that pick and secure a top lottery talent. So anyway, the Bulls are off tomorrow. They head back home to face off against the Milwaukee Bucks yet again at the United Center on Saturday. Let me know what you guys thought of this game tonight. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.